it's funny how these past few podcasts have just been, like, the video-wise, have just been me looking at the clouds. I may leave that in sometime, because usually I'll just put the, sorry if you hear me beating on a stick. It's just, that's just, what I have in my hand at the moment. But, last podcast, sorry for the sniffles. But anyways, back to the main point. Last podcast, there were clouds, and that was by a creek. This podcast, there's clouds, and I'm by a creek. So I may just leave this in and then just go for it. But since I don't have internet connection where I'm at the moment, so on the Photos app, you can, like, favorite moments, pictures, videos, like, all sorts of things. So I was just like, I had a beer, and then, once you've had a beer and you start loosening up and you find peace in a dope open campsite, your brain starts thinking. And that's what it was doing today. So I decided to I decided to scroll through my favorites and just see what was in there. And it got me thinking about nostalgia and, wishing for things to be like they were, and the difference between focusing on the past and focusing more on making your past making your present feel like your past, because I was looking through these days, and I have stuff from 2021 and 2022 where I was just like in a completely different headspace. That may be a story for a podcast where I just talk about, how I got to where I am and all of that stuff. And it's just, there's just a lot to unpack in that. And so 2020 was just a large year for me. COVID hit. It affected everybody, which was like 2019, 2020. But then, things started escalating in a different direction in my life. And it's just, it opened up so many more doors. I've met more people since 2020 that I cherish more than I have met in the past, And I don't want to get into it right now because there's a lot of thoughts that it's been about 4 years maybe, coming up on, or actually no, it's 2024, so it's technically been 4 years since those moments, and I'm still wrapping my head around all of that, Wrapping my head around the fact that it has been 4 years since my life has changed, and everything that's happened in 4 years, because that's how your brain works, Something that happens in the moment doesn't feel like the past. When you're looking back at something and you're like, oh, I have a memory of this action that I did in the past. You don't remember when it happened, When you look back and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that was in 2021. That feels so long ago, but it also feels so recent, And that's just how memories are. Memories are an ever-looping film strip. If you've ever watched movies, even like some old adverts for film production crews, they'll have the film reel just go. Memories and life experiences are just that. It's just a never-ending film reel. Everybody thinks about, when you die, you see flashes of your life. But that's even when you're alive. When you're alive, your memories are flashes of your past. And so I was just thinking about that recently, and just thinking about how my life has changed drastically. I can't even speak words. Hold on, let me get reorganized. My body's getting a little chilly. But, your mindset changes, when something drastic happens in your life, your mind resets itself, basically. It puts you in a different aspect of your life. And hold on, Let me get reorganized here. I'm actually going to pull up my tripod. I'm curious how this would be in a face. I'm not going to show my face in the edit, but, the video require, is whatever. But, just to get it in a more stable location. But, all of your life, this is coming from somebody who is 26, going to be turning 27 in September. So I still have, as long as I don't die, knock on some wood, as long as nothing drastic happens, I've only lived, according to our life expectancy now, I've only lived a quarter of my life. And in that quarter of my life, I have experienced things that there's some stuff that I regret, because regrets are inevitable. And that's something I've had to come to terms with, is just the inevitability of life and regret. I'm on like 17 different tangents right now. And it's mainly because I've been drinking. And that's one thing I've realized, and I wish I could get these thoughts and this confidence and this emotion when I haven't been drinking. And I'm not drunk. This isn't me drunk. I will remember everything that I have said. But I wish I could get to the point in myself to where I'm confident enough to cut on a camera. Even just not cutting on a camera, just in public. Having these conversations. There's a friend that I have, and I'm not going to state any names because I don't know how my friends want to react to their names being brought up in the channel. Because the channel's still young, so we'll take it slow. But I have a friend who we have some of the best and deepest conversations that you could ask for in life. And a lot of that stems from just, our existence, and early in our friendship, it took us having a beer beside a campfire to really open up to each other. And I want to be open to everybody. There's a difference between opening yourself up to new experiences and new people versus opening yourself up and it leading to backlash. I'm gonna start crying. I can already feel it based on this podcast. I'm gonna start crying. But anyways, it's just there's a difference. There's a difference between communication and depression. And there's just a lot to unpack in there. When you meet somebody new, you slowly over time open yourself up. You try to put your best foot forward. You try to. Everybody has their. I'm just gonna say it. Everybody has their problems. Everybody has their issues that they deal with on a daily basis. That when you meet someone new, you don't want to force those emotions onto somebody, because it could be you either feel bad that you're feeling that type of way, or you feel that you yourself shouldn't feel that type of way, And you'd hate to put that on somebody new who you've never met, who you're just meeting. Maybe you've only hung out with them once. You don't want to hang out with somebody on the second hangout and be like, I'm super depressed about, life. And you just have this giant spill about life. You'd hate to put that on somebody. And so it takes time. And that's how it is for me. That's why I've really liked, journaling and thinking about these podcast episodes where it's not my face. You guys don't see me. You just hear me. And that's something that's been a big help to me, because with the vlogs and a lot of YouTube is, I don't want to say a charade, but people just in life, and it just seems so much in social media, that some people put up a face, They want to be perceived a certain way, so they live their life drastically pursuing that certain representation about people. And that's just how life is, I would love to say that I'm the type of person who doesn't care about people's opinions. And depending on my mindset and depending on the day, I am that person. But also, the next day, I could be freaking out. Excuse me, because I came off a certain way to somebody. There's something I've been doing recently with just my travel. There's two things I've been doing recently. Whenever I go into a store where I am in the present, where I am myself in front of somebody else, I try to smile. Even if I'm having like the worst day imaginable, I'm trying to smile to brighten my day by seeing somebody else's smile, but also brighten somebody else's day. Because you don't know what other people are going through. And you would hate to be the reason somebody is ill, you know? That's what I've never understood about Karens, but I'm not getting into that. That's not for this channel. We don't talk about that kind of things. You know, that's not my vibe. I don't care how people are. You know, it's just that. But the other thing I've been doing is I could probably do it to everybody on Pass on the Road. But every time I see somebody who is traveling, even if it's like a camper, a converted van, if I notice a solar panel, if I notice something that means that you are exploring out of your comfort zone, I'll wave. You may not even recognize that I did it. And it's not for my own self-gratification. It's just I want to be somebody who brightens somebody else's day, you know? Because you never know what somebody's going through. You could be going through a depression, but the person behind the counter at an REI could be having their worst day possible. But if you just give them a smile, it could brighten their day, you know? Speaking to people, that's been my hardest thing, and that's something I've tried to do while I've been out west. And, like, I don't want to say rebuilding myself because I have already done that. The past 4 years, I have rebuilt myself as a more intellectual person. Now, I'm not a philosopher. I didn't go to school and study philosophy. I don't have a degree in this. It's all based on my life experience and people I have talked to and the information I have learned from people who are more well versed in this diagram, you know, in this just life. And it's just, you know, everything just compacts in on itself. So I say that to take what I say as a grain of salt. I'm not saying, oh, you should follow my path. I don't even know what path I'm on. I am on a trail doing this van life. I am on a trail where I have no clue where this is going to lead. I don't know how long I don't know how long I'll be able to keep this up. I don't know how I'll be able to afford all of this. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I'm in the present, and that's something I haven't felt. When I look back at my past, when I look back at, you know, high school, when I look back at college, when I look back at before 2021, when I started to get more outdoors, when I look at where I'm at right now in the present, looking at these landscapes in Colorado, it's so surreal. It feels like a dream. You know, it feels like, I don't want to say I don't deserve it. You know, I have worked towards this. I have spent the past few years grinding, spending my time planning, spending my time building out the van. Yeah, sure, I could have done things better. I could have saved more money. I could have put more money elsewhere. None of that matters. You know, life is just life. There's a quote. I'm gonna mess it up, but I'll post the actual quote when I do the podcast episode. You will see verbatim what this man says, and it's a conversation at the end of the movie Tombstone. There's a little bit of context. There's a man named Doc Holliday who has tuberculosis. He is on his deathbed. And his best friend, Wyatt Earp, comes to visit him. And they just have this gorgeous, gorgeous back and forth between each other. But the scene that always plays in my head is Wyatt Earp is in love with this woman, and Doc Holliday knows it. And he tells him, leave me. I'm going to die. He knows he's going to die. He tells him, go, grab that woman and live. Just live, you know. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what you experience. As long as you're with that person, you will be happy. And Wyatt Earp just says, I just wish I had a normal life. I wish I had an ordinary life. And Doc Holliday hits him with the best thing. He says, there is no normal life. There is no ordinary life. There's just life. And, you know, I've grown up with Westerns. I live by Westerns. A lot of the stuff that they, you know, say, a lot of it is movies. You got to remember, a lot of it is movies. But a lot of it is based on real people. And music and movies just stand out to me in such a high regard that the emotions I feel when I experience them, I incorporate into myself. Doc Holliday is one of the best characters that I have ever watched in a movie. The struggles that he went through and just everything about him is just wonderful. But that quote where he says, there's no such thing as a normal life. There's just life. It doesn't matter what you do in your life. It doesn't matter where you end up in life. It's life. You know, comparing van life to a quote-unquote traditional 9 to 5, they're the same. You know, they're the same. You are living your life. Not one is better than the other. I don't judge people because they don't want to travel. You know, just because I chose to travel doesn't give me the right to force anybody else to travel. This is the life I have chose for myself. This is my life. And that's something that I've always struggled with, is doing things for myself. And that's one thing I've learned about van life and things that I've learned over the past few years since 2020. This is basically like the reflection of 2020 without going into super detail, because there's just stuff I don't want to bring up. I will probably bring up. I just don't want to at the moment, you know? It's not that I regret those things. It's not that I haven't gotten over those emotions and those feelings. I have. It's just the way I see the podcast, the way I see the vlogs going, I don't want to bring that energy into it yet. You know? The vlog, I try to be more uplifting. The podcast, I try to be more real. But I try to be real throughout all of it. Anytime I'm feeling a true emotion, I try to share it, you know? That's just something I've learned, is to give your true emotions into something. Don't fake it for somebody. Don't fake it because you're if you're not happy in a relationship, leave. If you're not happy in a friendship, leave. There's a Steve Perry, the dude who's Medea in the Medea movies. He has a beautiful quote when he gets a reward. He says, people come into your life for a season, you know? And if you think about seasons, they're only there for a short amount of time. Winter is only there for the allotted amount of time between winter. Spring always comes. If you hang around people who are only meant to be for a season, but you put them through a whole year, you're going to be a negative. You're going to be in a negative, you know? And it's not easy. It's not easy leaving people behind. Because you build these connections with people. You build this life with people. And it's taken me personally 4 years to fully start grasping and understanding everything that I have put myself through, and everything I have lived through, and everything I have done for other people to get to where I am, you know? I have done a lot for myself. Even at my group friends, my friend group, there we go. The the actual first video of Westward, when I went to see them, when I left, and then when I talked to this friend who is my best friend, who we have such deep conversations with, I feel selfish. You know, I feel selfish about being able to do this. And it's not the selfishness of I'm better than anyone. It's the selfishness of, am I doing the right thing? You know, am I being too greedy by being out here in life, in nature, in these experiences? And it's just a lot that's been on my mind, you know. And I know this podcast episode is going to be all over the place. I'm jumping from point to point to point without meaning anything. But that's just how my brain works. You know, I cut on the camera to just record, and it's really just for me to express thought. And the way my brain expresses thoughts is, you know how an old school detective will have a pen in a picture and have a billion different red lines going to different things. Or I'm sorry, let's just say this, a billion different colored lines. But then he'll have the red line that tries to connect everything. My brain focuses on all of the different connections. It wants to get out everything that it can at purpose. And so a lot of my videos and a lot of my podcasts and a lot of my journal entries are open-ended. You know, they don't come to a conclusion. And that's mainly me as a person. I don't like trying to draw conclusions into things. Because when I think about a conclusion, that makes me think of an end. And I don't like endings. You know, I don't like things ending. But that's something that I have to grow out of. I ended the last chapter, the last 25 years of my life in South Carolina to come out here. That was such a big thing for me. And I'm going to try, I can't promise anything. I will try to draw more deeper conclusions into the podcast, you know. But it's also, I like leaving things open-ended. I like hearing your guys' opinion on my emotions. I like just expressing the emotions I have at the moment, in the moment, you know? So that's where I'm going to leave off. I basically, anytime I do a podcast, I build up so much stuff and I just let it all out at once. And it makes me feel so much better. And that's what this episode was. It was basically just me just talking. And that's what I've always wanted to do with my channel. Not really just my vlogs. My vlogs is just me, you know, categorizing and journalizing my journey. But when I started the podcast, it was just an outlet for me to speak thought, you know. And I think that's wonderful. I think doing journaling and just, you know, talking, even if you don't upload it in a video, just seeing yourself react to yourself. Like, say you record yourself talking and you play it back and you just feel the emotion that you had in that moment. Wonderful. Wonderful things. Journaling stuff down, not even rereading it, putting all of your thoughts on the page that moment, closing that book, waiting a week, reading everything that you felt is just completely different. It's just a wonderful feeling. At least it is for me. I know some people are different. I know some people who want to read their feelings emotionally. I like giving myself time. That's what I'm going to do with this episode. I'm going to record this. I'm going to end it. I'm not going to edit it until a few weeks. You know, this is like the second podcast that I've had. I've got 25% left on Blackmagic Camera, which is my recording app. 25% out of 100% of footage I can record. I've got to go through all of that. I've got to edit vlogs. I've got to edit the other podcasts. So it's going to take me a minute before I get to this episode. And who knows? I may be feeling a completely different aspect then. But that's just the beauty of communication. That's the beauty of expressing thoughts. It's the beauty of being yourself in the present and not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future. Being in the present, being in the now, understanding that the now guides your future, but is a result of your past, you know? Just a lot of things. So I'm going to end this because I have to use the bathroom and I have to pee. So I'm going to end this because I'm done talking and I'm going to play some solitaire and then just exist a little bit more. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the podcast. And I hope to do more podcasts. I hope to continue this lifestyle, even if I have to do it where I'm working a little bit and then traveling. I want to be living the way I'm living now for a while. It just depends on how life goes. Nobody knows. The future isn't written. The only thing that's written is death and taxes. That's the only two concretes in life. So I'll see you guys later.